Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd. With my friends over at yarnspirations.com. Today's the beginner well-schooled throw. This is actually laid out as if you were an absolute beginner. It's 4 pages, step-by-step instructions with pictures, and today I'm just going to do the matching tutorial in order to show you how to do it. Now when it comes to this kind of concept, we have tutorials already available to you. So in the more information link of this video you will find other links of how to get started with crochet, with holding the yarn, and etc. So I'm going to assume that you know how to hold the yarn for this one, and it'll also take you through doing slip knots and etc. So my goal today is to get yourself started. I'm also going to show you some tips on changing color. For example, say that you're doing this green and you run out of a ball in the middle way of it, because when I started crochet for the first time I didn't realize that I could actually just switch to a different yarn ball in the middle of a row. So I will show you that, and I'll also show you how to change color on the ends, and then we'll do a quick little border as well. So today is the well-schooled throw. You'll need a 5.5mm size eye crochet hook. Just look for the hook sizes on the shelf if you're looking for that for the first time, and you'll also need a yarn needle. So what I've been using lately is called a wool needle. It has a big ending on it like this, but you can have other types of needles as well, as long as the yarn fits in. So let's begin, and the step-by-step instructions are available to you. So there's lots of pictures, some brief descriptions, and essentially that's what we're going to take you through today. So let's begin our journey of the beginner well-schooled throw. So let's start our journey. So here's the end of the yarn ball. You can see the end of the tail, and the tail is leading to the ball. So when I like to use my balls, I like to use them from the center of the ball. So I just reach in with my fingers and pull out, and I get the center. By having the center of the ball you can have a lot better tension control, because the yarn eventually will become loose as it comes out of the center. So we're gonna create what it's called a slip knot. It's the starting knot of crochet. So I want you to point your finger like this. Okay, your thumb doesn't have to be up, but just point your finger, and I want to take the end of the yarn and I want to wrap it around my finger twice. So just go once and twice. Okay, so try again. So point, wrap, and wrap. One more time. Again, there's other videos available that are slower than this. Once you have the double wrap, just open your hand and pinch the 2 yarn strands going down. One is going to the ball, the other one is just the end. I wanted to play a game of leapfrog. That's how I remember this. So my game of leapfrog is that we have 2 frogs on the end of the diving board. So the first frog here is going to start the game of leapfrog, and he is going to jump up. It could be a she too, or they, and just gonna jump up over. But you know, the other frog is so excited that when he goes and jumps up, so you're gonna pinch that one, or they go to jump up, they're just gonna go right up over the top of the diving board, and that is your starting slip knot. Just like that. So you can take your finger out and insert your hook. I'll show you again. So we wrap twice, and then we clamp down our hand and then play the game of leapfrog. So leapfrog is really super excited. They get over, and then this new one here, so excited they accidentally jump too far right off the diving board, and insert your hook in and collect it off your finger. So let's show it to you one more time. So just wrapping over, game of leapfrog, the first one goes over the second, and then the new one jumps over top of the diving board right off, and insert your hook in. There you go. So when you go to do this here, you want to be able to easily slide this up and down the shaft of the crochet hook. So let's go through the anatomy. You have the head, the throat, and the shaft, just like here. So whenever you go to play with crochet, the shaft is what's measuring out the stitches. So you never want to just stay in the throat of the stitch, because it's a different thickness. So the thicknesses are judged by the shaft. So depending on the size of your crochet hook, the shaft can be different sizes, and that's what gives you the thickness of your stitches. So let's begin. Remember, there's other videos on how to hold your yarn and everything. I will link that in the video. So in the video description. So just with your hook now, I want you to play a game of rowboat. So row, row, row your boat, but a dream. So you're just gonna row your boat. So row, and the only way to get that hook through this here is to turn that hook upside down like this, so it matches where your hand is. So upside down and pulling it through. That's a chain. So that's considered the first chain. So that's chain number 1. So if you look at the anatomy of a stitch or a chain, it's a teardrop. So the only way to get the hook out is to turn it upside down, because you can force it up and so then it just slides out through the bottom. So you're gonna do another chain. So row your boat. So this is called yarning over. Rotate the hook and pulling through. So rotate and pull through. Noticing that I am using my fingers and I'm letting it go, and I'm just re-grabbing to the stitch that I just made, or to the chain I just made. So pull through. Now as you get more comfortable with crochet, you will be able to do more chains without letting go. So you can go like this, as long as you know how to keep the tension so each of them looks the same. But in the beginning I want you to pull through, open your hand, repinch, and going through. So you want to chain 132 to match this particular blanket. You can do any size you want on this blanket. It matches any size that you would like, and you're just gonna go to 132. So please just practice your chain now. Go to 132 chains. So you may want to restart over right now and just restart and say 1, 2, 3 and just count it as you go. And when I get to 100 in my head, once I know I have 100, then I restart in my brain. I don't say 101, 102. I just start over and say 1, 2, 3. So get to 100 and then 1, 2, 3 and then get to 200 if you had to, and then 1, 2, 3. So that's what I would do. So in this case it's 132. Let's move on in the instructions. As we move on to row number 1, so we're gonna get ourselves started. So we have to play along this chain. So I'm gonna show you a little thing that is nice and handy. So we have to go 4th chain from the hook. How do we know the 4th one? So what we need to do is look for the stitch 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll hold, I'll wait for you. So just look at your chain. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And in the 4th one, what I want to do is turn it over so that I'm getting the back hump of that stitch. So see how it looks flat? I want the back hump of the stitch right there. So we're gonna double crochet that. So to do that, we're gonna wrap the hook. So we're gonna row boat. So row, row, row your boat. So this is called yarning over, and go into the back hump of the 4th one and insert into the back hump. It's harder the first time. As you get more experience, you'll be able to pick that up faster. So you're just going in. So you're gonna row boat. So row boat through that stitch, or so that through that chain, and then you're going to row boat through 2. So yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, and that was a double crochet. So once you've gone into the back loop of the chain should stay upside down, and it does naturally. So your next one is right here and here and here and here. Do you see that? So we're gonna double crochet ourselves all the way across. So you're gonna yarn over, so row your boat, and then going into the back hump of the next chain, which is staying up, and insert your hook in. You're gonna row boat and collect your yarn and pull through that chain, and then row boat, pull through 2, row boat, pull through another 2, and that's done. So we're gonna restart. So row your boat, so yarn over, going into the next chain and in, pull through 2 and 2. Okay, so yarn over. I'm gonna talk slow, quieter. So yarn over, going into the stitch, pull through 2 and 2. Yarn over into the stitch, pull through 2 and 2. Yarn over, I'll keep the camera going, and you're gonna work your way all the way down your chain. So I have a memory hook that I used to use when I was younger. So a wrap and through, which is the chain, pull through, then 2 and 2. Maybe that'll work for you. So wrap and through, pull through, then 2 and 2. Wrap and through, pull through, 2 and 2. and you're gonna go all the way down your chain. And the instructions state at the end of this chain, when you get there, I'll go back to my regular voice. So when it gets back to the regular chain at the end, you'll notice that there is some stitches missing. There will only be 130 stitches instead of 132. Why is that? Anybody want to take a guess? Now's the time to take your guess. You can put it into the notes or comments to this video if you wish. It's because we skipped over some stitches when we did our first one. So the count of the stitching doesn't match the same count as the beginning row, and that's usually true for most of crochet. And you're gonna go right into the end until there's nothing left, and that will complete off row number 1. So let's move on to row number 2. To do row number 2 is that you are going to turn your work. Okay, so you're always gonna crochet in the direction of which your hook is pointing. So let's begin to do row number 2. So we're gonna do what is called back loop double crochet. So it's double crochet back loop in the instructions. And what this is, it's creating a ridge. If you look at that blanket, you notice that each of the colors has like a ridge. It has a standoff like texture. So we're gonna start off and we're gonna chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. That is counting as your first double crochet. So this double crochet matches the one directly below. So the next double crochet is here. So where is the next double crochet going to be? That's right, it's gonna be right here. So this type we want to get the texture. So let's take a look at the top of the stitch. So in the top of the stitch there's 2 strands that make up a stitch. If you use the front strand, this is called the front loop. That's a front loop double crochet. And if you use the back loop, so you jump over the first one and just go into the back, that's back loop double crochet. That's what we want to use throughout this whole thing. So we're gonna wrap our hook, we're gonna do a double crochet in the back loop. So wrap the hook and dive only into the back loop. If you're that new to crochet and you don't want to worry about texture, just use both of those strands and then you won't have to worry about it. I'll leave that in your hands. And you're gonna double crochet like you had been on the chain. So remember my memory hook. So wrap and through, pull through, then 2 and 2, and you're gonna see the ridge starting to form immediately. Do you see it? So you're just gonna back loop only, just double crochet. I'll quieten it up and I'll just keep a steady pace, and you're gonna do this all the way to the end of the row. So I'll talk softer now. So just wrap and through the back loop, pull through 2 and 2. Finally you're gonna get to the end. You want to make sure that you don't forget that end stitch. So right now there's 1 stitch still left, and it's this is called the turning chain. We don't want to forget that. So in the back loop of that turning chain is the last stitch that you want to do before you're finishing off. Most new crocheters forget about that, and then they end up with 1 stitch too early and therefore end up with a triangle blanket. So we're gonna turn our work now and do row number 3. So row number 3 to 6, so 3, 4, 5 and 6 is the same color, and we're gonna repeat exactly what we just did. So you're gonna chain 3, and in the back loop only, so just diving over the front loop, you're just gonna double crochet, and you're gonna do that all the way to the end. And then when you get to the end, you just wanted to turn your work. So each one of these particular rows of color that you see within the blanket consists of 6 of these rows back and forth. So each one of those stripes, I should say, is consisting of 6. So how many rows do you physically see in my hand? I'll stop for a second. 1, 2, and 3. So I need to do 3 more of these in order to complete that setting of stripes that we have on the blanket. So the trick, my friends, will be identifying that last piece. Okay, so don't forget about that turning chain, and you're gonna yarn over and use it. So I want to show you a little technique now. So let's just say, for example, I've turned my work and I'm noticing that my yarn ball is getting a little bit thin, meaning that it's about to run out. So what you can do is that you're gonna just continue along. So you're just gonna chain your 3 and go in your back loops, and you don't want to waste any yarn. When I first started crochet, I would literally stop at the end and I would waste so much yarn because I thought it was gonna run out midway through. So here is how you are going to change out your yarn. You want to keep the same color, but you need to change it to a different ball. So how you do that, let's just say that I ran out of color and it's almost out. When you go to start your next crochet, so I want to get it relatively close to the project, and I'm going to double crochet in the next one, and I'm going to insert into the back loop only, and then yarning over, pulling it through. I want to hold here. I don't want to continue any further. Take your next yarn ball and create a slip knot like I showed you in the beginning, and you want to insert that onto your hook. So instead of using the original yarn to finish the stitch, you're using the new yarn to finish the stitch. Now I want to take those 2 ends and I want to pull it tight, in the sense I want to make it look like it's the same height of the stitch. So when I go to start the next stitch, I want to go into the back loop and I want to leave the stragglers of the ends on top of the hook and pull through 2 and 2. So this is being trapped under the stitch itself. And you can do like 2 inches of this. But also what you can do is, if you're really thinking it's gonna fall out, which it can, the best way to do it is to take those ends, so do about an inch or so, and what you want to do is you want to take your tail ends and take that tapestry needle that I had, and in the back of this just drag it back through underneath the stitch work. Okay, so you don't ever want to go back into this exact same path in which you got there, but if you're just going around something before you dive in, you can get it stuck under there, and therefore this should never fall out on you. Ideally it's really good if you go back and forth 3 times, but in this particular instance I can just do once, and then I can safely cut that down, and therefore I have just changed the yarn ball and you can barely see that I've done so. And so you're just gonna carry on, so you don't have to waste any yarn, and you can do that. So that technique of doing the hiding of the tail ends, you can do with any tail ends that you have. So what I want to leave with you now is that we're going to carry on, and I want you to get 6 rows of this complete. Okay, so right now we're on the end of row number 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So do 2 more rows and then I will switch to a new color and I'll show you how to do that, and I'll be right back in just a moment. So I've just come across and I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is the 6th one. So I'm gonna go right into the end. Don't forget that turning chain, so you should have flat edges at this point. If you're absolutely brand new to crochet, your stitch work may be a little bit wonky, but this is a great starting point project for you too. So let's just say that we're going to switch our colors, because every 6 rows you're going to switch your color in order to match the idea that's in the pattern, and you're gonna just cut your yarn and just pull through the loop. If you're new to crochet, I would strongly recommend you get used to having a tapestry needle and just turn it over to the back side, so the back of that, and just drag that underneath the stitch work. Don't touch the top of anything, the top edging, because you'll see it. So just going up, so once, twice, and 3 times. And that's how you'll change your colors when you go to do that, and then you can safely cut that right down into the project, and that should never fall out. 3 is ideal for going back and forth. So now we're gonna, this is where we finish, so we're gonna turn it over and start our new color. So to start a new color, create a slip knot, which we showed in the very beginning, and we want to insert the hook into the slip knot. And starting on the back loop of the very first stitch, okay, so just, it's maybe a little bit tight depending on how you sewed it. You're gonna just go in there, and this is called a slip stitch to join. So just insert it onto the hook and pull through and through, and now it's attached to your project. And you have to chain 3, but watch what I do with this tail. Starting in the back loop only, you want to leave that tail down on top of the line and get it stuck up underneath that stitch. If you go about 2 inches, you probably will not have to cut your color, or like as far as like weave in your color. But of course I'm recommending that you use that tapestry needle. So if you only want to go 1 inch, and then take that tapestry needle and then just drag it back in the direction that you just came, it's ideal for never falling out. So if you're gonna wash your blanket, not everybody washes their blankets, but if you're gonna do it frequently, that's the best way to do it. Just drag it back across. When you pull things tight, make sure that you're not gonna change the shape. So just safely cut that, and now that's stuck. And now continue along, going in the back loop only all the way to the end. Don't forget that turning chain when you get there. So I'll just quieten it up, and I'll be just moments before I get there. So this entire project is working on the back loops only. So don't forget the back loop of that turning chain, and then turn. Okay, so what I'm gonna do for you now is that I'm gonna do 5 more rows of this, and then we're gonna come back and I'm going to begin to show you how to do the border. So I've already showed you how to change the color in a midline. I've showed you how to change color at the end of a line. When we go to do that, when I say color, change color in the middle of the line, I've just changed over the yarn ball, but this is how you would do it anyway if it was different colors or different yarn balls that you need to add in because the ball has run out. So I will see you at the end of row number 6 for this new color, and then we'll constantly do, we'll continue to do the border. You will notice that this particular blanket is laid out, so whatever color you started with, the last 6 rows of the blanket should be the same color. So if I'm using 2 colors, then the last color should be this pink, just like you see. So let me do that. I'll be back after 6 rows of this, and then I'll show you how to do the border after that. So I've now just come to the end of the 6th row, and so I would change the color back and then do this color again. If you want to add more colors, that's up to you. It's subjective to your creativity. So you want to keep on going till you get to a certain amount of rows. So you can measure it out to what it's saying. So it says to finish on row 102, which is a long way away, and it's a nice generous size school afghan or a blanket, whatever you want to call it, even a throw. So you want to do that. Once you're ready, then fasten off your yarn, and then I'm gonna show you how to do the border. The border is actually really quite easy, and we're gonna be able to do that next. So we want to do a really nice border. The first round of any of these blankets are always a little bit more tricky, but once you get the first row, then the rest of it just falls in line. Let's begin, and let's fasten this off and get rid of any yarn tails that you have, and let's begin. Okay, so this is where I finished off right here, and what I want to do is that we want to begin to work on the next section. It's the border. Create a slip knot to begin, and what I want you to do is that I want you to turn it over. So this is where we finished, so turn it over and start the border. So just come into the very first stitch here. We're gonna use both of the strands, so we're just a regular stitch, and just insert in and then pull through and through, and that's a slip stitch to join. Chain 1 and do 1 single crochet in the same one. Okay, and that will get yourself started. Leave the straggler down on top of the line and work your way as one single crochet. So just going in and pull through two. So going into the stitch, yarn over, pull through two, and you're gonna do that all the way across. So in, pull through two. Once you go about 2 inches, just let that straggler fall out of the way. You can use a tapestry needle to hide the rest of that in, and you're just gonna go all the way. Now the border, when we do this, the top and the bottom edging will always look perfect, and it's the side edging that you have to take an educated guess on how well it's gonna look. But there are ways to be able to make it look good without actually stressing it too much. So we're gonna come into this one, and remember that turning chain is also a stitch, and in that turning chain you want to put in 3 single crochets. So 1, going in again is 2, and going in again is 3. You need 3 single crochets in order to make that 90-degree turn. Now we're gonna work evenly spacing down the side of this. Don't go into a space because then it will pull apart your afghan. You want to stay within the chain work, and you're just gonna evenly space out your single crochets. So just look, so I can go here, and then I can look and I can go into this chain. Never go into a huge gapping space because it'll pull it apart. So you want to do this evenly spaced to the point where it's not gonna ruffle. If it starts to ruffle, it means that there's too many stitches too close together, and if it starts to kind of like come and start to fold in, it means that you're going too quickly. So you're just roughly looking at the sizing of the stitch. Okay, so you can kind of see, if you look at the roof, how far that you can travel with one. So look at the roof when you get there, so pull it up, and that's on the shaft of that hook, don't forget. So roof it, and you can see where the next one's gonna go, and you're gonna do that all the way down. The first time around is always the hardest, but after you get around, it's awesome. So just roof it, and you can see where to go. Try to always get 2 strands of work to be on top of the hook, and it will have a better join. So when you lay this down, it should be sitting relatively flat, and it does. So this is years of experience for me in order to get it first time. It took me a while to be able to understand how to do this. So roof it and then kind of look. So once you get to the other side all the way to the corner, you're gonna put 3 single crochets there. So I'll quieten it up and I'll get myself to the corner next. So my corner is next. So in the corner stitch, which is the first one of the corner here, you're gonna 3 single crochets. So it'll turn and make that turn. So 3 is in there. So starting in the next stitch, because I had you go in the back hump of the chain, the stitch work looks identical to regular stitch work because there's 2 strands. And so you're just gonna go, and this is the bottom side of the starting chain. But because I had you go in the back hump, it's almost impossible to tell the difference, which is what your goal is. So what I want you to do is go all the way, and then in the last stitch in the corner put in 3 single crochet, and then just evenly space out your single crochets going up the edge, and I will see you at the end of this round. So I'm coming all the way around. Remember that we started with 1 stitch in the very beginning. So in the same stitch hole you want to put in 2 more single crochet, and then this is called the slip stitch. So you're just gonna come to the top of that single crochet, then going in and pull through and through. And so when you lay this down, this will never be looking perfect. It's just the way it is with crochet. It looks pretty good, but it will never be perfect. So if you're striving for perfection, this may be the wrong craft for you. So then we're going to move on now, and we're gonna move to the next border section, and let's begin to do that next. So what we want to do, there's only 2 rounds for this whole border. It looks like there's more, but there's only 2 it says. And what we're going to do then is that we're gonna start, and we're gonna chain up 1, and right in the same one that you did the slip stitch 2 is the first single crochet. And you're just gonna single crochet yourself in every stitch going around, noticing that I am just using the regular stitch, so I'm not using a back loop. You can if you want to, but it's up to you. So what your goal is that when there's 3 single crochets that make up a corner, the middle one will have 3 single crochets added to it, and that will keep that corner building outward. If you don't put that in, the afghan can buckle right on a corner. So looking, see how there's 3 in the corner? You want to get that middle one. So it's this one right here. So single crochet in the first one, and in the second one of the grouping of 3 it's going to be 3 single crochet, and that will allow it to turn the 90 degrees so that you can start on the very next stitch and work your way around. And you'll do that every time you hit a corner. So I think that's pretty clear. So what I'll do is that I will follow this all the way around. Make sure you put your 3 single crochets in the corner stitch of the middle one, and just 1 single crochet in each. And because the stitch work has already been established from the row before, then it just is gonna go pretty quickly for you. So I'll see you at the end of this round, and that will conclude off today's tutorial. So I'm coming all the way back around, and I have my last corner. So we started just after the corner, so then the middle one of the 3, so remember that the first one is where we started, so we're looking for the middle one of the grouping of 3, so that'll have 3 single crochet just like that. And what I want to do is that we started off in there, so we're just gonna slip stitch to the beginning single crochet. So then you're just gonna take your hook and pull it through, just cut that, and then just turn it over and get the back of the project that you see. So the back and the front always looks a little different, so I would consider this the back now that we've gone all the way around with our stitch work. And you want to go back and forth 3 times, and then that's it. So any tails that you have, you can just throw it through a tapestry needle in order to hide. If you're comfortable with weaving it underneath, just know that it's a strong possibility that things do pop out. I used to never use a tapestry needle because I was lazy, and I would always kind of pay the price that after somebody used my afghan once on the couch, then it would begin to show the yarn tails. So it's a great way to hide in your yarn tails, and it's something that you will never have to really worry about. So when you back out from this here, you can see that this is a mini small sample, and this is a beginner level project. So this is the Beginner Well Schooled Throw by yarnspirations.com, and thank you so much. Have a good one, and it's Mikey.